So today I have found Maria, who's dressed as a witch. I'm not sure if she is a witch or just dressed as one. But funny enough, I happened to stumble on her in a lovely costume about 2 weeks ago, and then she showed up on my Instagram feed the same day. So I'm leaning toward an actual witch at that
Karma.
point.
Yeah. It's meant to happen.
But turns out you do history tours.
I do.
Right?
Herstory tours.
Herstory tours. So how long have you been doing tours throughout London?
I'm in my 5th year now, so I started them in 2021. Yeah, so 5 years. Yeah, it's gone quick. God.
What inspired you to want to do them with costume? Because I appreciate the costume.
So I just thought it'd be interesting to bring the stories to life a bit more. I've always loved dressing up. I've always just been a bit of a show off and loved putting on costumes. I just thought, why not combine those passions? And it just lends itself so well to history, I think, and really helps you to get into the immersive element of it and imagine you're going back into time. So I did work as well. I've done a few immersive projects prior to this where there was costume and theatre, and I thought that's quite, and a tour, and I thought that's quite a nice combination. So why not do that?
Do you feel like people respond better, like absorb the history when it's paired with a costume? You feel like you can really like immerse in it?
I think so. I think people really appreciate that it's something different, and it's not just like walking and talking with a like, and over here you see this and that, and it's definitely bringing it to life in a very different way, and I've had a lot of people say that to me. So yeah, I think it helps. It also helps the history and the stories to stay in people's minds more.
Agreed.
Yeah.
As a visual learner myself, like it makes everything come more alive, and then implants in my brain better, where I can like remember random numbers and how this related.
Exactly.
And so, but today I thought it was interesting that you picked Smithfields for this location.
Yes.
Dressed as a witch.
Yes. So my flagship tour, if you like, Hex and the City, which is about the history of witches in London, witch persecution as well, is centred around Smithfield and surrounding areas. So we do walk through Smithfield. Smithfield is one of my favourite places. I mean, we're sitting in this gorgeous churchyard of St. Bartholomew the Great, which is a really ancient church. It's very atmospheric. I always find it's very peaceful. But then if you just step outside, I mean, you've got, nearly 1,000+ years history of bloody executions going on here, and lots and lots of stuff, lots of torture, lots of horrible stuff that's happened here, burnings, etc. But it's got this weird sense of calm, and some really gorgeous architecture that you can't find elsewhere in London. So it is one of my favourite places, and I'm going to be launching a ghost tour here soon as well. So
just in time for Halloween. Like I feel
100%.
like Halloween is very underutilized here, considering how perfect the set is.
Yeah.
So when you look at it that way, it's like this should all be
agree.
spooky tours year round.
I love it. Well, to be fair, I mean, during Halloween, in my experience over the last 5 years, this area has been chock-a-block. I mean, at one point, with tours, I 1 year was doing my witch tour, and I normally stand just outside the church gatehouse here, and there were about 5 other groups just dotted around me, and we were all trying to like jostle for a spot because, of course, Halloween. It makes sense to be talking about executions. But the rest of the year, I mean, it's pretty quiet, and that's why I quite like doing tours around here, to be honest.
And so your other themed tours, when I saw you walking through Covent Garden the other week, it's like
I'm so easy to miss.
Well, I just personally love costumes in general. So I was like, why is everyone not dressed in costume all the time?
Yeah, perfect. I know, right?
And then you came through, and I was like, who is that? I love her dress. What tour was?
To me. So that was, I'm assuming, that was my Covent Garden big red gown. Yes. So that's my Harlot, Strumpets and Tarts tour, which is about the history of sex workers in the Georgian era in Covent Garden, because it was a red light district in the 1700s.
I didn't know that.
Well, you do now. And a lot of people don't know that, because now when you look at Covent Garden, it's full of tourism, it's full of designer shops, and very, very zhuzhy and very sort of,
Yeah,
street performers everywhere and everything. But it was really seedy, and it was full of crime, and it was full of sex workers if you go back far enough. So
sounds exciting.
that's what the tour is about. Yeah.
And I love there was a video that when you came up my feed that you're walking through one of those thin little alleyways, and it just looked like visually so cool with the big dress and trying to picture people.
I mean, I can barely fit down those alleyways.
That's what I was wondering. It's like, how do people squeeze down? Like, there's the one way only at a time kind of thing.
It's so cool. What's lovely is you do have these little alleyways in London still, the really narrow ones, and one of the, I call it the tightest passageway in London that I go down, which is, of course it isn't. I am the tightest passageway. No, that's just one of my many jokes. But no, one of them is actually the second narrowest alleyway in London. So, which is a bit of an odd thing, but and people just miss it because it's so narrow. I mean, you kind of have to walk sort of sideways really to get through it.
Especially if you have one of the large wide dresses.
Yeah, with the panniers. Yeah, exactly.
I can layer stuff over.
Yeah. There we go.
Never even looked up.
As you do, didn't even notice.
It was just a ghost that walked through.
It was definitely a ghost in a business suit. Yeah.
It's about time that we start getting ghosts that have like iPhones. It was like the iPhone 1 coming through.
But that's the thing about ghosts. People always say, like, why do you never see ghosts in modern clothes? Like, why are they always Victorian or something? They're never holding iPhones.
Yeah.
But maybe we are seeing them all around.
Exactly.
We just don't know it. Do you know? I mean, mind blown. Like, you walk past them all the time looking at their iPhones.
I'm pale enough that I could possibly be a ghost.
Right.
We're still not sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So this area, you said that there were executions. Were they done out front, or were they done in the market, or were they done in the churchyard?
So what they think is that so I'm pointing that direction. Obviously, no one can see at home, but there's the gatehouse at the front of the church, and it was on that spot there where, when they did excavations, I think in the late 19th century, but not exactly sure when. But anyway, they found layers and layers of charred earth, clearly showing that there had been burnings at the stake, probably on that spot. Compared to other spots in Smithfield, they didn't find that. So what it is assumed, and also given the engravings and the woodcuts from the period, that roughly it would have been outside the entrance to the church. And so most of the memorials to like the martyrs that were burned here are around that area. They're actually like at the front of the church. But they would have done, so that was for religious martyrs mainly, that you would be, burnt at the stake, including witches, I might add. But then you would also have, the traitors that were killed, like William Wallace is a famous one, Scottish patriot, and he was hung, drawn and quartered. Not a very pleasant death, which would have been a bit further in the centre, because this is called Smithfield now, but it used to be called Smoothfield because it was a smooth field, funnily enough. So it was all just a big field, like none of these buildings, apart from the church, existed. Yeah.
And they did it right off the grounds just to be like, technically it didn't happen on our property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it definitely didn't happen there, no. Because the church never supports bloodshed.
It's just like it's an accident that happened out front.
Yeah.
Terrible. It's a dangerous intersection out there.
Exactly.
So do you know roughly how many women, I'm assuming maybe there were a couple men thrown in as witches, but let's be honest, it was like women who were probably mouthy and had like a couple thoughts out loud and
had a couple of thoughts, basically.
Burner, witch. Is there an estimation on how many people were executed in that area?
In total, all the people. I mean, we do know that, for example, there's a memorial to the Marian martyrs. So they were the martyrs, they were Protestants that were killed during the reign of Mary I. And she killed around 280 people. I think it's about 55 women in that number. So it's mostly men, of course. But then you've got to remember that her father, Henry VIII, killed a few people as well, probably about the same amount, roughly 200 to 300. And then, so I don't know off the top of my head a number, but I'd say about, actually, I don't want to say it because I might be completely off the mark here, but definitely over 1,000 people were probably burnt
in that spot
as martyrs, for sure. Yeah.
And you even mentioned the area that we're on right now was a plague pit.
Yes, a reputed plague pit, because they can never be entirely sure. But we do know that we are sitting on lots of bodies right now, because this is the churchyard of St. Bartholomew the Great. So it's raised, like you can't see from here, but we're raised up in the ground, and they say that's because of the layers of human lasagna.
Human
That we are sitting on.
human lasagna.
I know, it's horrible.
Yeah, wouldn't sample it, but
Yeah, no,
you know,
no, probably
I
not.
appreciate the work. And there's like gravestones. I'll put in video over
Yeah.
this when I walk around with it. There's little gravestones. There's a crypt right behind, or what would you call that? Not a crypt.
Oh, like a tomb.
Yeah, just one
we've got
spooky tomb.
Yeah. Just
Sitting
in the middle.
there.
Probably it was someone important related to the church, but we can't see now because of it's completely eroded and worn away. But
It looks magical though. Even the tombstones,
does.
they're all like very spooky, very perfect for
are.
this like vibe of this. And do you know how old St.
Yeah.
Bartholomew's is?
it was founded in 1123. I know that, but of course this whole area was heavily bombed during World War One and World War Two, but it's particularly World War One. So much of this church has been rebuilt. I mean, it's pretty much the same structure as it would have looked. This bit here is new. You can kind of see there's different brickwork where it's kind of there's been bits added and repaired. But if you go inside, they've got the original columns dating back from 1123. Like it's like the first ones, which is incredible to still have that. So bits of it are that old, which is very cool.
I would think after roughly 900 years, there's probably been a couple renovations expected.
You
know,
kind of would expect that, right?
Yeah.
It might need some work done to it, but it's quite amazing that it's still here and one of the oldest Gothic church buildings that we have, in the country. So.
And is this flint stone? It has the unique like shiny black.
I think so. I am no architect for sure or expert on that, but it looks it to me. Yeah. I mean that hard. Like you never see anything made of that now, do you?
No.
Like
it's impressive.
You would never see. And to think they didn't have machines, so it would have been layering stone upon stone and just by hand and using mules and horses and things. Just incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
So are there on your spooky tour coming up, the hexes, are there any specific cases from that or any specific person from history that you enjoy telling the story of the most that you don't feel like gets the historical recognition they deserve?
You mean for the witch tour or for my new ghost one?
Actually, each tour.
All of them.
Yeah, tell us like your favorite historical significant person from each one you love talking about.
Oh God, there are so many, but like from Hex and the City, which is my witchy tour, I love telling the story of the last witch in England to be basically found guilty as a witch. And this was a really late date in history. Like people are always shocked when it was. I don't want to say exactly when because it will ruin it, but you probably know anyway. But basically this was a medium. This was in the 20th century. This was a medium. So she was, somebody who conjures spirits from the dead, and holds seances. And she was the last woman, technically, in Britain to be found guilty under our last Witchcraft Act. It's just insane, like that happened so late. I mean, she wasn't executed because there wasn't the death penalty for that particular charge by this point, of course, but she was imprisoned under the Witchcraft Act. And I love telling her story, and I bring it to life, and I bring to life her seance and exactly how it happened, and how she was arrested during the seance, because she was arrested during a seance.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy, yeah.
I'm just at work.
I know, she's like, I'm just trying to conjure spirits and look. And then she goes obviously to the Old Bailey, the criminal court, and there's a criminal trial. It's such an interesting case because there's so much more to it than just her simply conjuring spirits. They thought that she might be a wartime spy. They thought that it was linked in with this, and the MI5 were, like the Secret Service were trailing her and watching her. And there's just so many interesting things connected to it where she was like, I can conjure spirits in the courtroom to prove that I am not a fake medium, because they were trying to say she was fraudulent, right? She wasn't a spy, but they were trying to say, look, okay, but you are, you're a fraudulent medium. You're not a real medium. And she was like, well, I will just conjure a spirit now in the courtroom. But she wasn't allowed to do that. But I would love to have been a fly on the wall.
I love that they told her she wasn't allowed to do that.
I know. It's against the law. It's against the legal system processes, apparently.
You didn't put them on the witness list, so we haven't approved this ghost yet.
Exactly. But it's quite a complex, it's one of those cases where I kind of really wish there was a film or there was a play made about it, because her story, there's a lot more to it, you know. There's lots of like people with different motivations and interest in putting her in prison. You know how it is. There's always other things.
Like the Salem witch trials in America, the more you learn about that, it was more like somebody just wanted their land. They were a bunch of widows with no protection. They're like, witch, she's a witch.
Like, she's definitely a witch.
She doesn't need that land, she's a witch.
Yeah.
Give that to me now.
And that's what a lot of the witch trials were about, just inheritance, money, land, petty rivalries, you know. It's just awful, really, to think. It resulted in loss of life so often.
So many.
Yeah.
And predominantly women.
Yeah.
Targeted.
Yeah, let's not be around the bush here. It was a femicide. You know, if you look at the numbers as a whole across Europe, across America, across the world, it is, even to this day, it's mainly women that are targeted, you know.
For these types of things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But I saw a movie called Warlock, so, you know, equal opportunity employer when it comes to but not equal opportunity, like unfair payment, unbalanced payment for that, for sure.
Yeah.
So on the Strumpets tour,
yes,
is there a favorite historical strumpet that you love?
A historical, oh my God. I have lots of, I mean, I can't even tell all the stories because I don't have time in 2 hours to share all of these. I mean, one of my favorites that I've talked about in, because I give talks as well as tours, is someone called Kitty Fisher. She was a courtesan. And Catherine Fisher was her real name, but she became known as Kitty Fisher. And she's like your original it girl. She's like your Kardashian of the 18th century. Like, she set the fashion trends. She was like an expert at PR. You know, she would like deliberately fall off her horse. And in those days, people didn't wear underwear, right? Because they didn't have underwear like we have now, so her skirts would fly up and then she would expose herself, and it would be like sensation in the press of the time. Kitty's exposed herself again. You know, she was famous for so many stunts. Like, she allegedly was shocked that she was underpaid, you know, an amount. I think she was offered something like 100 guineas and she normally would take at least 1,000 guineas by somebody. So she put that note on a piece of bread and butter, and then she made a sandwich out of it and she ate it to show her displeasure. Yeah.
I guess where it goes.
Where it goes, yeah, exactly. I think people just don't pay attention. Yeah,
it's okay. It's a busy city.
Exactly.
Well, I'm used to doing these like on the fly out in places.
Yeah.
Like, so that's when I layer in the B-roll over it. So when you see B-roll, it's like that's because my.
That's what it is. Yeah. So Kitty Fisher is one of my faves. There's another one called Charlotte Hayes. I talk about her on my tour. She was a madam who was one of the few women in the sex trade in the 18th century that didn't kind of fall spectacularly from grace or like die of the pox or, you know, die in destitution or whatever. But we know about her because she made a lot of money. Like, she was really quite a wealthy madam and courtesan, and, you know, she had special events in her brothels where she charged ridiculous amounts and would dress the brothel up like an exotic island or something and have all of her girls wearing costumes from different countries, and she just sounds very cool.
She sounds really fun.
Yeah, I would love to have known her and to have gone to her events, you know.
Yeah. Would you say the show Harlots?
Yes.
Is that who they took inspiration from?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So that's based on a great book by Hallie Rubenhold called Covent Garden Ladies, which also heavily influenced my tour as well, because and Harlots is very accurate to the history.
Really?
Yeah, so I would recommend watching Harlots because
show.
It's fantastic and the acting is great. And a lot of the characters, there's one character I think called Charlotte Wells, who is partially based on Charlotte Hayes, I believe, or there's a few characters that are, you know, loosely based on these real people. But yeah, it's a great show.
I loved the scene where they were auctioning and buying the house in Covent Garden.
Yes.
And they bought it for what, like £300 at the time.
Yes.
And I did a
lot of money.
I plugged it into a calculator to see what that would be today.
Yeah.
And it was something like 160,000 today. I was like, but those houses are definitely far more than that price today.
Oh yeah, 100%. They're like millions now, aren't they?
Yeah. But how gorgeous. That's so interesting. I wondered if they had taken any like real historical significance of people and worked those in.
Oh, they did. I mean, there's, you see at the beginning of the Harlots, the series, they're reading the Covent Garden Ladies List, which was a real list of the sex workers, like a directory of them where they had reviews. And you can even Google this list and find it to this day. Like, you have the really good reviews and you have the bad ones. And I think it's very accurate, showing them reading the like genuine reviews from the period. Wow. So that I found really, really fun as well. Yeah.
So you were also a history teacher before you got into this, which I think gives even more credit to the fact you're doing history tours.
Yes.
Was there any subject that you liked teaching the most? Was it history? Is that how this all naturally happened?
Funny enough, I wasn't a history teacher. I was a teacher of English as a foreign language.
Oh, wow.
So it's completely different to what I do now, yeah. But having said that, so I taught people that didn't speak English, coming over here. They were often like business people, and they were all adults. I wasn't teaching children. And they often, as part of my job, many of them were interested in the history, like I am, and they wanted like tours of London after hours. So I would do that, like for a bit of extra money. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I know a lot about the history of London, so I can take you on an impromptu tour, and show you some of the sites and things. And I just really enjoyed doing that. And so it was never an intention to go into history tours. It's always been something I've just really enjoyed as a passion. Yeah. And I've kind of just found my way in after COVID, to be honest, because it was like something to be outside, so it was a job straight away that I could be out, and people were happy being outside, and it was, yeah.
And I heard that you guys during COVID had like the best summer weather.
Oh, it was too. Oh my God, it was absolutely beautiful. It was the perfect temperature. Nature was thriving. I mean, it just proves, doesn't it? Once people are off the streets, and we stop all activity, nature just takes over. The world doesn't need us, to be honest. Like, the world would thrive so much better without humanity, I think. But it was a particularly gorgeous spring and summer. I mean, that was kind of lockdown period. So I didn't start the tours until the Halloween of 2021. Okay. So it was later, and we were coming out of lockdown and just having, We
were in that in between, like, is this done for you?
Yeah, it was like 6 people going out kind of thing at the beginning, which was okay. And I could start it off that way slowly and then see how it goes. Yeah.
So how often do you do tours? Do you need a certain amount of people to book before you do one? Or?
So I've got 6 tours now, nearly 7, I think. Oh. And I run each one once a month. Then obviously, that publicly, that is. And then obviously, if anybody wants a private tour, I usually get, it really depends, but lately I've been getting between 2 up to 5 private tours as well. So it's been doing quite well over the summer. And then those are obviously additional. So yeah, I do need, for the public tours, I need a minimum amount of people to book just to cover. Some of the tours are just me, and some of the tours are me and another person. So I have like a co-star, yeah. And obviously, if the tour is with her as well, then I need a minimum amount just to cover her costs. But all the tours have different price ranges, so it depends, what tickets we sell. And
are they all evening time, or are there some during the day?
No, there are some during the day. Yeah, we have some. We've got a bit of a range. Most of them are evening because of the nature of the tour, and also it fits with people finishing work and on a Friday night, But we do weekend suffragette tours, for example, Saturday and Sunday mornings, because we have a collaboration with the Bow Street Museum of Crime and Justice. So then you can go into the museum after the tour. So it has to be in the daytime so that you can catch the opening hours. We do, and some of the other tours, like I've got a London Bridge tour which runs in the afternoon. I kind of experiment with times month by month and just kind of see what works. But there's no rhyme or reason, to be honest. Like, it just depends on, I don't know what it depends on. I think it's weather. I think it's how much money people have, what the season is.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like experiencing summer here and seeing the sun go down so late.
Yeah.
Compared to winter, when it's like it might peak out for an hour and then by 3 p.m. it's like it's done.
It's totally different, isn't it? It's like winter here. I mean, look at the time now. It's 5. It would be pitch black if we're in winter now, right?
Give it a couple months. A month, we'll really start feeling it.
We will. It's so bizarre.
I get the SADs now, or I understand why people have the SADs now. It's like,
I know.
In the States, there's really not that much of a variation.
Yes.
The farther south you go, it's pretty much the same. but coming here like, oh, that's what summer is like. Why? Don't go go summer. Well, heat can go.
Yeah, intense heat with no rain is getting a bit of a drag now. I'm not going to lie. It's a bit much, but
it's intense. Hopefully this is our last big heat wave coming up.
I hope so. Yeah, we need rain.
It would be nice, but it does set the stage. It looks like we're in fall for spooky time.
Yeah, it kind of does actually, doesn't it? It fits perfectly. Yeah, the autumn leaves.
So if you were to leave everyone with your favorite historical woman ever, doesn't have to be someone you do a tour, doesn't even have to be London, just your favorite historical woman you admire.
Oh my God, it's so, I mean, I've got too many, so I'm going to have to just pick one of the many that
It can be like, which one you like today even.
Which one do I like today? So there's this incredible 18th century woman who was a painter of miniatures, right? And she was actually born with no arms or legs. She was called Sarah Biffin, right? So I don't know if you've heard of like the thalidomide victims who were born, you know, obviously, and this condition has a name, but it escapes me right now. But basically, she was born with that, so you can be born with it. And obviously, this was in the 1700s, you know, when this kind of stuff was stigmatized and not really understood. But she became a painter by sewing a paintbrush into her clothing and manipulating it with her mouth. And she painted these incredibly like detailed miniatures, like way better than I can do with two hands. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just incredible. And against all odds, I hope you can still hear me above the chiming. Against all odds, thank you. So against all odds, she basically was successful as a painter. You know, I mean, she was even paraded around the country in a freak show at the start of her career, as that's kind of how these people were viewed, you know. But that kind of got her the recognition, and luckily she got a patron that supported her and wanted to, you know, help her sell her paintings. Of course, she was exploited by men, because you know what men are like. Sorry men out there, but you know, but ultimately, you know, she did well and she made a name for herself, and her paintings have been exhibited. And she's just someone I hadn't heard of until quite recently. And I was like, this woman is incredible. Sarah Biffin, look her up.
Yeah, I've never.
She's just incredible. Yeah,
especially like you were saying at that time period. It's I mean, any disability was not really. You weren't encouraged to thrive, and to hear someone be able to overcome all that. And so often joining freak shows were like the only kind of income. There wasn't really like disability pay or anything.
Oh God, no. No. And they were portraits as well, and just absolutely stunning portraits, even if you were able-bodied to be able to paint like that.
To do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's impressive anyway. So yeah, she's incredible. But there's so many. Every month I write a blog, which is her story of the month. And so I try and find an amazing woman from history that most people haven't heard of, and I just tell her story. And they're all on my website, so if you're interested.
I'll put all those links in here. Well, actually, would you tell everyone where they can find you and everything if they want to book a tour or follow you on socials?
Absolutely. So my website is historicaltours.co.uk. And if you want to find me on socials, you can. It's Instagram, historical_tours_. But this is all on the website anyway, or Facebook, Historical
And I'll
Tours
add it in the description too.
It'll be added. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you letting me stalk you randomly online after I saw you walking as a strumpet through Covent Garden.
I kind of encourage it, let's face it.
It's perfect. Thank you for answering my questions and giving me a little bit more history of the area we're surrounded by.
Absolutely. No, you're very welcome. Thank you for your time as well.
Of course. And if you have any questions for her, I'll put the links to her contact, social media, if you want to book a tour. All of that will be in the description below. And now I'm going to follow her around while she gives a tour. If you liked this video, please do me a favor and give it a like and subscribe. Also, special thanks to my members and our weekly live stream every Sunday night.